Hello everyone, we hope you're doing amazing and we'll soon be starting with the session. So, in case it is not a problem with you, we request all of you to please switch on your cameras and put in the virtual background that we have shared on the group. That will really help us make the session more interactive for all of you.
Peter Block once said, consulting is not a profession, it's a mindset, a way of thinking. Good evening to one and all present here today. Welcome to day one of Aged and Place 2.0, a week long preparation bootcamp to make you placement ready. We're excited for this journey. I must say, it would be a roller coaster ride. We are thrilled to have you all to join us today as we delve into the world of consulting, a dynamic and rapidly evolving field. We all are excited. This side, are you all excited? Before we begin with the session, I would really like to know what our audience is expecting today from our side. So, what you all are expecting, what we are going to discuss about, what the session is going to be about. Please raise your hands, or you can type in some words you get in the chat box as well.
Guys, let us know what do you expect from the session in the chat box and what do you think the session is going to be about. We'll be really interested in knowing your views.
May I start or may I say something? Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
So I was saying I'm expecting that you might share your experience to join an internship or a job because I'm a freshie and I don't have much experience, but I have to walk that path. So I have a bubble of a thought that how the meeting or how the interview is gonna get gonna go in my future. So I think you are gonna tell us that how it actually goes rather than how we expect it to go.
Definitely. Love to hear your response, and we have it coming up. So stay excited for that. Anyone else who would like to share what they feel about the session is going to be about?
Yeah, somebody wrote like a perspective on the functionalities of the consulting. Um, we are expecting more answers. Come on.
Come on,
I don't
guys.
think so. Like,
Yes.
yeah. So let's do this thing. When I take a word consulting or a consultant, what is that thing which comes up to your mind? You can write it in the chat box, or you can say it by turning your camera on, like mic on. Problem solving, advice,
problem solving, strategy.
strategy,
That's a nice word.
Management.
management.
All right. Anything
Not
else?
everyone's cup of tea.
Analysis. Very true.
Creating solutions.
PPT.
Quite impressive answers, I must say, Chavi.
Definitely. Our audience is really thrilled for the session, I can see, Nikhil. Business transformation, create growth. Okay, research.
I'm going to jump in on that note. Am I audible? Everyone? Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. How many people are there? Are we expecting more people? Can we start?
So I guess we'll wait for just another 2 minutes, and then maybe we can start until
We
the
can.
time.
Yeah, Ritvik, we don't do any SWOT analysis anymore. That's just the college jargon. I will take you through everything. Yeah. Is this the first session you guys are having in this series?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to get a lot of questions, I feel. It's going to be easier for the people who follow. Just to get some context, how old is your society? How old is this setup, and what are the activities you guys do throughout the year? This is just for the people from in the consulting group.
Yes, sir. So we are a part of the Hindu Consulting Group. That is, and this is the 4th year of our society. It's a part of the Hindu College of Delhi University.
Yeah.
And till the time we have done more than 30 projects, and we are a team of more than 30 consultants. And this is our Consulting Bootcamp. This is the second session of our Consulting Bootcamp. So we are really thrilled and honored to have you here, sir. Nikhil, we can start.
Yeah, we can start. I feel like we're at capacity. It's quite interesting that like I couldn't enter the meeting. I told you. Okay, can the host give me like a quick? Okay, just before that, an introduction, right? It says McKinsey. I am Calcutta SRCC. Yes, so I am also in Delhi University. I went to SRCC. I did my BCom honors there. Batch of 2019. I started in 2016. Before that, I went to a boarding school. Other than these things, I'm actually like I used to be a keen sports person, but I'm sure like a lot of you, there's not much of these things you get in DU, right? But after SRCC, I decided not to sit for placements there, and more about that later. I was prepping for UPSC, and simultaneously I gave CAT. After CAT, there were 2 options I had. My dash 2 options, as you can say, were Bangalore and Calcutta. I decided to go to Calcutta because of few reasons. And then my first year was completely in COVID, which was definitely not a good experience. But my second year was all the good bits of college. We went to college and it was online classes while staying with our friends. So that was nice. I was a little bent towards marketing in the beginning, and then eventually I decided and settled. I contemplated a lot between finance and consulting, and I decided because of my conversation with a partner in one of my interview rounds, which I'll talk to you guys more about. I decided to come to McKinsey. having left a lot of other sort of lucrative options, because when I exited my college in 2022, unlike now, that was a sort of, we're coming out of COVID boom season. So my batch was really lucky. And yeah, so, and then I've been in McKinsey for about a little more than a year. And I have been lucky, unlucky, I don't know. I've just been I've worked in various domains. So I feel like if a lot of people stay on one project for a really long time, I've been on a lot of different 2-3 month projects, small pieces here and there. So I've gotten exposure to industries that a lot of people, like my college, SRCC, only had economics and BCom honors, right? So I am currently working with chemical player, and my team is filled with engineers and people with a lot of experience in manufacturing and chemical. But I'm here, and I'll talk about that part of being a consultant as well. I'll just share my screen now, right? I know everyone says this, but I'll tell you how the session is going to be useful, right? I've done a couple of these. I'm going to talk a little bit about, so there's an agenda I have, right? And it's a very sort of linear agenda in terms of when I started where you guys are. I was in my, let's start at second year. And then I'll take you through like the various decisions I had and various things when I look in hindsight that could have been helpful in terms of maybe, there are a lot of my friends who went and sat for placements, and there's a lot of things they did, and a lot of them right now, and like they joined McKinsey, BCG being right after college. A lot of them are in private equity now, and in finance too. Like I'm sure you guys, a few of you know about like different things in finance and consulting, but yeah. And I'll tell you what they did and what I could have done and what you might want to consider doing. I'll talk about domain choices. So just going to project my screen now, right? Just let me know. Okay, the host needs to give me access. Just make me a co-host. Just go to the participant list and make me a co-host. That'll be helpful.
Yes, sir. The host is making you the co-host very shortly. And thank you so much, sir, for being a part of our session. We're really honored and thrilled to have you on board, and we are really sure that the audience is going to benefit a lot from your expertise and knowledge. So, without any further ado, we hand it over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
can I
joining
share
us
my
today.
screen now? Yes. Is my screen visible, guys? Is my screen visible, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So guys, firstly, right, what we can do in college differently, and I tell you what worked for me in college. I was a part of Enactus there, right? So SRCC Enactus is quite active. I eventually was also a part of the students union, and not talking about most about the projects and all, but basically it just helped me sort of get an insight into how businesses work, right? In a small, in like 2 lines, any sort of business is about like it's two things, and mostly it's all for two things, unless you're into like the field of social entrepreneurship. But like in consulting or Revicom, it's about like top line and bottom line. Has everyone heard of this? What I'm referring to? तो किसी भी कंपनी में तुम जाओगे तो तुम्हें या तो पैसा बढ़ाना है या अपने खर्चे कम करने हैं, ठीक है? So just that, right? So what you can do in college right now, right? And what I saw my friends doing differently. Number one, I feel like if you made up your mind, I didn't have that sort of clarity when I was in the third year. If you made up your mind into going into placements, I would really recommend picking up a case book, right? And there are a few kinds of cases. I'm not sure if you guys have a case book that is accessible, like if a society publishes it, but there's various available. There's case books published by, I would recommend going for Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta. And there's one by IIT Bombay, right? If someone wants to take notes, there's this other person. If you have time, this very famous name in the industry, I'll just type his name down. Victor Cheng, has anyone heard of him? Is he like something you guys discuss? Can someone unmute and say yes or no? Or just type like yes in chat in the chat. Okay, yeah, Ayush, right? So Victor Cheng, if you just and where will you find Victor Cheng? You don't have to go. Just type his name on YouTube and write Victor Cheng case basics. What he's gonna teach you is the different. There's 3 to 4 kinds of cases. There's profitability. There's market entry. There's some kinds of guesstimate. Right. There's unconventional cases too. And I'll also take you through a I'm sorry, one of my clients is calling. I'll take you through a profitability case really quickly. So in college, I'd say like one of the most, if I'd say like the most important thing is to like sort of, I would say that keep a good balance between having fun, because this is the last time you're sort of going to be like free of that pressure, but also just get into the basic stuff. If you get some internships, don't go for these internships that don't offer you value, that make you work without money. Some branded names, and when you're actually learning something in your domain. I've seen a lot of people. I went to this college about a month and a half ago. This company that was making people sell their product and called it an internship. That is not an ideal situation that you'd like to be in. A lot of different companies, startups, established organizations. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very important tool. You can also apply through a placement cell. Just ask them to for tie-ups and live projects is another thing, right? So these things, and start just with case prep. And case, just another thing, right? Case prep is not just important for consulting. It gives you a structured thinking. So right now, and this is what I realized is different between when I was in college and now. When you're having a conversation with someone who is thinking through a problem statement, it's very important to take this approach called MISI, which is have you guys heard of MISI? Yeah, so it's so basically it's mutually exclusive and collectively what it means is um, the alphabet set A to Z is something that's MISI. If I were to explain it in Hindi and like to make it very easy, the answers that I'm proposing, like if a problem comes in front of me and the answers I'm proposing, they are A, collectively all the answers that exist, and B, different from each other, right? Like, I'm going to give you a very easy example again, right? Do you like Formula One? The answer to that is yes or no, right? That's an easy thing. And of course, you start sort of making it bigger and you start making things in structure. And why this is important is you don't want to like miss out on anything, and you want to make sure that there's as little confusion as possible. I know people say consultants work on different frameworks and structures, but it's kind of important to have like a very strong line of thinking when it comes to that. Okay, moving on. Right. So 2 things you have to do here: pick up a casebook if you can, and not just for this. Just know what's happening in terms of placements. You don't necessarily sit for placements. And the third thing I'd want to do in college is just like make your friends. I'm telling you this other thing, right? The friends you make in college are like the friends that last in undergrad specifically, right? And you're in DU, you're very lucky. I had a lot of friends in Hindu. It was one of the best times I had. I don't know which year you guys are in, but my flatmates, I used to live in Shakti Nagar. If you guys know where that is. Before that, I used to live in Old Gupta Colony. So yeah, just that bit, okay? Because once you exit, it is either a lot of expectations and pressures on yourself or from other people, from yourself or other people, right? Now coming to the next part, which is the screen stop. 1 second. Yeah, the right decision after college. Okay, and can Chavi, can you tell me roughly what the split is if people are more second year, third year, first year here?
We have people joining from other years, but mostly first years.
Your voice is breaking a little bit. Can you say that again?
Am I audible to you, sir, now?
The voice is it's cracking a little bit. Is that just for me or for everyone?
I'll write it in the chat box then.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. All right, guys. So just again, right? First year, just figure out college. If you're from a different city, if you're in the city, just figure out how things are going. Don't miss your internals in college. I did that. And that takes a toll, right? Going forward. In terms of CGPA, I'm sure a lot of people of you are like, oh, I want to get into consulting and should have a really good stellar CGPA. It is true to an extent. If out of 10, if the grade is, try to keep like a 7, 7.5 above that. If it's higher, it helps a little bit, but it's never a problem. Matlab, once you get into an MBA college, is the path I took. My CGPA wasn't stellar. It's about like just showing different dimensions of yourself in your CV, right? That's another thing I'll talk about here too. Just coming up with a CV and what are the things you look at, right? So after college, I'm sure a lot of you are like at a crossroad. Do I sit for placements? Within that, what kind of job do I want? Do I go for any job that I get or that is ready to take me, or like, am I willing to wait it out? Right. I don't know how active your placement cell is and what the situation is, but yeah, the second, which I did, right, I had this question, and I'm sure a lot of you have this in your mind because of various reasons. Do I go for UPSC as an option? Right. Third, and I've seen some people do it, and in my year, maybe it was becoming a trend that a lot of people, they want to start their own thing. But fair, a few options, right? The one I went for was taking a gap year, sitting for UPSC. For UPSC, again, I won't say that I'm an expert, but I went to Vajiram there, and 3 months in, I realized that this might not be for me. But my dad really wanted me to do it. So Shan ko I used to go for UPSC prep, but Subha I started going for CAT Shubke, like a typical SRCC nerd. So, and then somehow the exam went well. In terms of so in terms of CAT prep, right? Just moving on from here. Is that something you guys are interested in talking about? Okay, great. So CAT prep has a few things, right? My screen isn't moving. My screen's stuck. I'm sorry. But okay. Number one, what institute do I go to? Right. Online, offline, institute, kya lena hai, which course? When do I start? That's another question, right? So I'd say if you were to appear in November, June, July would be a decent time to start. And if you were to appear for next year and you want a little more time and want to pace it out a little bit for yourself, my friends also started in January, the January of the year where you're supposed to take CAT, right? But if you start right now, if anyone's planning on giving it in their third years, so right after college you can, that's completely fine, right? In terms of approach and the material, all the material will be provided to you by a coaching center. I went to Time Jhande Wala, right? There are different batches there. They take a little test, they see your background, they assign you to a class. It's an hour a day. Physical classes are a little better because they help you come in a sort of regimen routine. That is helpful. And more importantly, so like the first 2 to 3 months, you should focus on completing your syllabus with teachers. What worked for me mostly was taking mocks. Okay, in my time, CAT was 3 hours long, 1 hour for each section. So typically, how I used to break it is about a month and a half before the exam that I used to take 1 mock every day and spend about 2 hours analyzing it. And then I realized a lot of the stuff that comes later on is sort of repetitive, and a lot of my syllabus is also getting completed like that. Right? If you're not willing and you don't want to, because of various reasons, take an entire mock. It's 2 hours now. So you can take something they give called sectionals. Okay. Sectionals are just like 40 minutes for a thing. If you want to take like English, etc., just do it. And should be good to go. And then another thing that sort of worked for me is when I got my time slot, I started taking mocks around that time. I had the morning slot between 9 to 12. So around that time is when I sort of, so just so my body was in sync, right? Just a disclaimer about CAT. Like a lot of different exams in India, CAT is is very based on luck. It doesn't, you don't know how that day is going to go. It doesn't give you too many shots like GMAT. If people are preparing for GMAT, there's 8 chances you get, right? And you can choose when to do it. That doesn't happen with CAT. There's a year difference. If people want to give it in third year, right about now might be a good time to start. And yeah, just in terms of the preparation, as I told you, it initially it'll take you 4 hours a day. Towards the end, might take 8 hours. And do not, when people write 10, 12 hours for different sort of exams, that's not what it takes. Okay. You can come with your own strategy, your own strengths. Just understand it's not as tough as it sort of seems going forward. You can start now. You can start. People who are doing UPSC, right? Just start reading the newspaper a little bit, right? So that's fucking 1 second. I'm using
So
my-
I have a question. Can I ask?
yeah, please do that. I actually really appreciate that.
Yeah. So as you said, you have prepared for UPSC as well and CAT simultaneously. I am also preparing for UPSC, but I plan to give 2025 attempt. I'm in my third year, so 1 year drop. So, as you said, MBA is more inclined towards quant thing, right? More maths thing, and my maths is little weak. I thought of doing MBA, but theory part was more focused. My area was more focused towards that. So I'm just a bit confused. As should I sit right now, or should I give it a try in the November attempt for the MBA thing?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Okay, this is a question I'm sure a lot of people have. You can't sort of leave math behind in life. Okay. A lot of people, you can, especially the path we're on right now, in one form or another, quant and mathematics, at least in its nascent stages, like it is in CAT, it's not advanced math. You do not need advanced math. You don't need, like you do not need, you just need very basic level of maths in both CAT and life, right? There's people, there's like machines that do other stuff for you. So answering your question, two parts, right? The quant section of math in CAT is not that tough. Once you open your book and you start reading it, you'll realize it's really 10th grade stuff. And if not now, I feel like later on as well, you will have to do it at some point. You might as well do it right now, right? Secondly, right, UPSC I am coming to CAT. That's a very, it's a choice you might have to make, right? I was very confused there. But increasingly, and I'm sure you've read too, with the recent prelims and everything, UPSC has sort of become an ocean with a very sort of ill-structured and ill-defined syllabus. What that means is that, like, I know that you're going to put a lot of concerted and like targeted efforts towards studying what's given, but that does not necessarily translate into like your chances into getting in. Of course, you have a much greater advantage than someone who's not studied or like you've studied better than. But of late, I realized there's a lot of erraticness in the exam itself, right? The career point of view is completely different. If you do an MBA and you enter a corporate job and you do whatever temperament is aligning with, that's different. But this is what I've of late realized with UPSC, and I've seen a lot of different people's sentiments. A lot of my friends have been taking it. It's a marathon, and you don't know if you like win even if you cross the finish line. You know what I mean? So that bit of UPSC is there, but again, you can try that. Just don't let this quant sort of thing stop you. Just open a book and just take a mock. Okay, there are a lot of free mocks available on the internet. Take it, right? Okay, so moving on. The next step. Now I've given CAT, and now I raised an interview, and my interview goes surprisingly well, which I wasn't prepared for at all because I had just like I didn't know that interviews could go in depth. But the people taking my interview from IIM Calcutta ended up being like my professors later on, and they were very sweet people. And the questions they asked me, so they were in my domain. I sort of knew them, but also I was able to like so in terms of interviews, right? It's very important to gravitate and pull the interviewer towards what your strengths are, right? If you don't know something, you can be very frank about it. Okay, so that's how my CAT interview went. I knew a lot of it, something I do not know, but overall I had a good time. I feel like they just thought that I'd be a good fit, and I entered IIM Calcutta. Now coming to college, right? And I'm just talking about Indian MBAs, right? So I'm sure you guys have all heard of like the colleges, right? There's Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore, and there's ISB. There's the new IIMs and there's the baby IIMs as they call it. In terms of percentiles and what you need, I know a rough setup. Try to get like, okay, again, it's not on you, but yeah, Ahmedabad would take someone with a stellar academic record, more diversity with a 99 percentile or 99.5%, above a 99. Bangalore gives a little more weightage to work experience and like 99 percentile.
Sir, I want to ask something.
Yes, ask me please.
As a consultant, what is the daily task that a person has to do in their job? And
Yeah.
is it similar to a data analyst or something, or what is the difference between consulting and data analysis?
Yeah, Shishti, we'll just move on to that in like a minute, okay? Like give me some time. Just quickly, that's one of the things I talk about, right? And I'll spend like about 15-20 minutes on that topic. That's a good question, and that's a question that a lot of people that might want an answer to that. So yeah, and then in college, first 3 semesters is what you focus on, and then second year is a little more chill. But yeah, a lot of the placement stuff, summer internship is what you go through, and over there, a lot of your jobs and PPOs etc. is decided, right? I would recommend like studying in the first 3 months, and then the second year in Indian MBAs is pretty chill, right? Coming to the next topic, which is choosing a domain. Just a few pros and cons list. Consulting is like a finishing school of sorts. You don't have to attach yourself to a domain. You can still exit into industry. What we call industry is typical corporate setups. Let's say someone's in manufacturing, someone's in FMCG, someone might be in software. So like Google or like an Amazon or like Maruti Suzuki, etc., would be examples of industry companies that specialize and work in one domain. Consulting is cross-cutting. That's one advantage, right? Second, in terms of learning, they say that a person learns 4 times as much, 4 times faster is what they do in 1 year when they do in consulting. They also age 4 times faster, is what I've realized after coming in. In terms of finance, there's a few things to finance. There's private equity, there's investment banking, and there's a lot of market trading roles, etc. There's equity research. Finance roles typically tend to pay higher. In terms of location, they're mostly located in like capital cities of countries like Mumbai, Hong Kong, Singapore. Might be like a few places that like you can get jobs in. I am Calcutta and I am Ahmedabad are great for finance roles if you guys want to go there. But again, this is something that you sort of commit to when you stay in finance for a while. Marketing is something that I was very interested in. I worked with like a few marketing companies. My internship was with Nestle. I got a very interesting project there. And general management would be with companies like conglomerates like Adani, Reliance, etc. And one of the best roles, I don't know if a lot of you guys have heard of. It's called Tata Administrative Services. Look it up. So this is modeled. It is for the Tata set of groups, and this is modeled after IAS. So they say it's like a cross between administrative service, the Indian administrative service, and the corporate job. You basically move from like you can go. Am I audible, guys? Something happened there. Give me a second. Right. So TAS is what I was talking about. Very interesting. Just 2 to 3 ways you can get into TAS. A TAS. Yeah. Again, now preparing for placements, different stuff. A lot. Very similar to what here. If you guys are interested, you ideally come in groups of 4 to 5 different people, and you have case books and you do cases together. 60% on profitability, 20% on market entry, 20% on growth cases. And I feel like just a little bit of unconventional and guesstimates over there. If you guys want to solve that, that's what I do for other colleges too. I could take you through that, maybe another session, right? Coming to what I feel like you guys want to talk about, right? My life in McKinsey, like as a consultant. Can someone, the person who asked this question, sort of unmute and tell me what exactly you think consulting is?
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. But how much time do you think is sufficient to prepare for the placement? Like in SRCC, companies start coming from September, right? So when is the appropriate time to start?
Start what?
Preparing for interview, like for placement.
Take about a month and a half, 2 months if you're before placement start. When the first company start coming, I'd say at least a month and a half is when you sort of start get into it.
All right. Okay.
Any other question? Yes.
Sir, where can we find the guesstimates?
So I said right. I'll also share with Chavi or whoever your spock is there are a few case books. उस केस बुक्स में ना देयर आर डिफरेंट सॉर्ट्स ऑफ केसेस एंड गेस्टिमेट्स. पूरे बुक में स्ट्रक्चर्ड, पहले वो तुम्हें समझाएंगे, इट टेल यू द स्ट्रक्चर्स, देन इट टेक यू थ्रू केसेस वन बाय वन. So you can sort of glance through a few of them and then you can solve it with your friend or friends while like on the move and in groups of a few people, right? तो यहाँ पे मिल जाएगा. There are resources and there are very developed resources for this. Okay.
Could I ask a question, sir?
Yeah.
How important is CGPA to get into an IIM, let's say ABC?
Into an IIM, okay, fair. Calcutta not so much. Calcutta, your CAT score is most important in terms of ranking. Ahmedabad gives most weightage to your CGPA. Followed by Bangalore, followed by Lucknow, followed by Calcutta, right? CAT score would be Calcutta first, Bangalore second, and Lucknow third, and Ahmedabad fourth, right? And I'm just talking about the top few, and I'll tell you why. ISB too, right? But I'm of the belief that like it's you when you're putting your efforts and you want to get into colleges, just from a placement point of view, there's only a few sort of colleges in India that you want to go to because there's a lot of good options outside too, right? Any other questions? All right. So, McKinsey, right? This is my first job. I was a fresher. Before that, I hadn't worked. My first project. So, as I said, right, I come from sort of finance, corporate, commerce setup and background. My first project was in assessing the cloud market for a company of SaaS players, right? Completely out of my domain. The person was supposed to get in touch with me, just said that, hey, at around 11, she sent me 2 to 3 YouTube videos and 300-page articles. And she's like, go through this and let's meet and connect and we'll see what we have to deliver to the client tomorrow. Right. So that was my first project. It was a huge sort of report I had to create. Then I moved on. They've ranged from sort of, I've been in Sabzi Mandis at 4 a.m. in the morning for a huge FMCG player trying to establish like a food and business, a trading business in food and vegetables. I've been in the meat industry for a company based in Thailand where they were trying to figure out what the most cost efficient way and the machines for sort of slaughtering pigs and chickens and like growing them were, right? I have been involved with tech players and their growth strategies in USA, as in growing, just helping them get bigger deals. I've helped a company, a very big telecom company, one of the biggest in India, to sort of establish a selling center for their B2B products. Most recently, right before this project, I was helping a private equity firm assess 2 to 3 different IT companies in terms of assets and which ones might be like good buys and good companies to invest in. And right now, I'm helping a company cut its cost in its chemical manufacturing. Right. So this has been like this is what consulting does. You don't know when you're off a project. You don't know who's going to call you, where you're going to be, which city, which domain, what your work is going to be. Right. So any specific questions here? There's a lot I can talk about because the person who asked me about like that question.
So actually, we also have audience joining from YouTube. So there are a couple of questions that are posted there. I shall read out some of them right now for you. So firstly, someone asked that is there any specific background required to enter consulting?
No, there's no background as such, right? I'll give you an example. So there's a split of about 70 and 30%, 70% with work experience, 30% with like freshers that were hired from IIM Calcutta, right? There are friends I have who are doctors and lawyers in the firm. A lot of my friends are engineers because engineers are everywhere. In my college, they were in the firm. And here too, in other undergrad colleges, there's nothing at all. I feel like if you come from a diverse background, one of my friends and my juniors, she did fashion. She did like a course in fashion from NIFT, I think, and now she's in McKinsey. So there's a place for everyone here, right? Because you need to understand how there's pharmaceutical companies, there's construction companies, there's people just come to us for solving problems. So baseline, when people say problem solving, and when you meet in McKinsey, when you meet with like a senior sort of manager or like another friend, you don't talk to them, you problem solve. That's a term. McKinsey is filled with jargons. and it takes you a long time to understand the different terms and terminologies here. Okay, so for example, right? Let's say that I'm pushed into a domain, and I'll tell you what a typical day looks like. So I'll wake up around, let's say, 7:30 ish, and then around 8:30 I'll have a check-in call with my manager, and that's where we're going to align on like what the stuff we've done for the past day and what the priorities are for the day, right? Then I'm going to get done with some client meetings. What these client meetings mostly entail are just seeing if there's anything in implementation, checking up on that from the clients, or if there's any sort of data that you want from the client, just asking them for it. Because you have to work hand in hand. You have to work in their offices from them with them and see how you can help them best. So client meetings after that. So till about lunch, you're doing this over the client, and then you take another sort of check-in call with the team, and or you have PSS scheduled with your seniors. So a partner or a manager would come in, and let's say I'm owning a work stream. So as an associate, when you join after an MBA, you will sort of graduate into becoming owners of work streams. Like everything that is supposed to be done in a particular task, you're responsible for it. No one's gonna come check on you, right? So you go up to them, you're saying, "Hey, I'm thinking this particular way to analyze, or this way to make a cost model. Is this the correct way, or do you have inputs?" So this is what like a 15 to 20, 30-minute connect looks like. So I'm going to PS, then I'm going to come up with a sort of model, or I'm going to come up with pages and documents. It involves a lot of PPT making. If you guys are going to ask, yes, like I spend about 30-40% of my day on page making. Or in different projects, it differs, right? And document building. So any other questions from YouTube? Okay, tell me. I can't hear you if you're saying something.
Yes, sir. So, sir, someone asks that what are the recent dynamics that have changed in the consultant sphere of knowledge? Like the changes that has happened in the in the recent times in terms of the knowledge that the consultants possess.
Okay, so number one, right? People say we're generalists, but 2 to 3 years into becoming a consultant, you have to sort of attach yourself to a domain, and you have to become an expert. So that answers a general question. That you start as a generalist and you take the support of different resources available in the firm, but eventually you go and you attach yourself to a sector. Like if I want to get into consumer, so that's. But how consulting as a domain has changed over time is that earlier it was a lot more about strategy and helping build like knowledge. In McKinsey, projects are called studies for that reason. A lot of like our stuff is very academic and theoretic and research based, right? But now things are a lot about implementation as well. You give a strategy piece, but the client is not just looking for a document. They also want you to sit with them and make it happen, right? That's how consulting has changed of late.
All right, sir. So one of our attendees in the chat box asked that what are the hard skills that one can what are the essential hard skills or the course that we can do to clear the consulting interview. So basically, what are the skills that we can develop during the course of our graduation that can help us further in consulting?
All right, guys. So consulting interviews are not technical, okay? They're very, very logical. One thing that helps, as I said, like just go through your case books, do that properly, but also be very, very crisp with your communication. The lesser the words you use, because understand here, right? What they're looking for is a person who can talk to a factory worker, but also the CEO of the company and make sense to both of them. And that happens on a very regular basis. You need to understand. When you're working with clients and plants and factories and like in IT setups, you need to make sure that you don't sound like you're just coming from a higher ground. You need to connect with everyone. So communication in that sense, not just in terms of like being effective and everything, but just also being empathetic. So that's very important. Number two, you need to be very logical when it comes to, and every step you take, you need to sort of have an answer. As in, like when you say that, hey, I believe that one of the reasons that like our profits are declining or like our revenue is declining might be this. That just can't be a phrase you throw around. You say, hey, this makes me believe that this happened because of this, and my hypothesis is this. So it needs to be so you need to, it needs to be very logical and everything, right? Okay. So these two skills, and if I would say, yeah, go ahead, Nikhil.
Yes, sir. Can I ask you the next question?
Yes, please, yes.
So, someone from YouTube asks that how does one decide one's job profile?
How do you just decide a job profile, like choosing a domain or within consulting? Okay, I'm going to answer both of those things, right? Because, okay. Yeah. So basically, in terms of deciding a domain, there's 2 to 3 things that are involved, right? There's an aspect of money, there's an aspect of work-life balance, and then there's interest, right? So if you were to sort of make a pie chart for all of these things, right? Finance would definitely like sort of like, so this is what you connect with. Like a Gen Man role would give you a much better work-life balance, but won't help you in terms of like the salaries won't match as much, right? Marketing, again, you become a business owner. Like let's say you work for a company like Nestle or a P&G, you'd sort of be owning a business. In finance, again, you'd be either on the transaction side, on the research side, multiple things. And in consulting, you're going to be involved in all of these things a little bit. So that is about choosing the domain. And within McKinsey, again, how you choose your profile. So right now, right, as the first 2 to 3, 4 years you spend as a generalist, but going forward, you see what is something that interests me. Because at one point when you're working 12, 13, 14 hours a day, like what needs to drive you is also like what interests you and keeps you intrinsically motivated. A lot of people also choose domains basis the people they find in the firm. It's very important. Like, so you need to understand that this is in these setups, there aren't like hardwired teams like in other corporate setups. You don't have a manager you're going to work with for 2, 3 years. You don't have a colleague. This changes every few months, right? So, but once you find your people, and you don't know, maybe I find people in like a particular domain that I didn't have interest in, but I like working with these people. That's another thing that sort of helps me decide. So, a few years into consulting, you have to choose a track that you want to be in, that you want to become an expert in, right?
Thank you so much, sir. And someone from our audience is asking that I am curious about the future of consulting. Are there any emerging trends or technologies that will shape the industry?
Okay, so definitely that's a good question. Consulting as a whole, definitely like it over the entire generative AI space, right? So I feel like that is something that is going to both help us in our is going to help us develop like knowledge pieces and like toolkit for our clients to better help them with their efforts. But also right now, I feel like there's a few industries that are really going, like e-commerce and the pharma industry. The public sector has started showing a lot of interest in sort of getting consultants on board with this new government. So these 2 to 3 things within consulting are growing a lot. And going forward, of course, it is not just consulting, but overall the entire economy and how we sort of integrate generative AI into our lifestyles and our workings, and just making it more effective and robust while taking care of all the threats is going to be a very interesting space. So we're actually, I feel like McKinsey is actually helping a very big national body in India, sort of making the regulations and like helping with them with the entire AI piece. So that's stuff that we're working on already. Right.
So we have something on the similar lines, a question on the similar lines. So considering the advancements with the chat GPT-4, can it potentially replace the need for an entry-level consultant? Additionally, how can the organizations effectively utilize chat GPT as a tool in their operations? They claim that the chat GPT-4 is involved in their problem solving. So it's basically more on something about the need of AI or the use of AI in consultancy. If you can throw some light upon this, sir.
So guys, definitely, right. There's 2 to 3 job profiles, and I feel like one of them I've thought about in depth is in terms of law, right? What is generative AI and like what this ChatGPT-4 specifically, I'm not sure how strong it is, but just based on what I've used in ChatGPT-3 is that it's very adept at processing huge amounts of like textual data and give you answers for that. right? So whichever domains and whichever part of consulting that will need this particular part of ChatGPT, well, like let's say a researcher has to see that go into like so like let's say 10 reports or like 10 sort of different pages. Like let's say you're supposed to listen to an earnings call of a company. It will sort of help me and it'll reduce my hours in that. But I feel like consulting, even an entry-level consulting job, is not something that AI will sort of replace going forward because there's multiple aspects to it, right? So along with the research part, there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of what you call like what you need in the real world. There's a lot of PMO is what we call like program management, right? Where you have to work very hands in hand. So there's one thing where like you come with a solution, basis your research, and you work with your internal resources. But then there's also the part where like you as a consultant sort of take it forward and make it happen, right? So I feel like it is definitely going to be useful. It might affect some part of our jobs for sure. But as of now, I don't see it as a threat to consulting, right?
All right, sir. We also have one of the questions from our attendees that how do we get into McKinsey if they don't come to our college for placements? So I guess this is a problem with, this is a question of many students that how do you approach such consulting firms, such top consulting firms, if they don't actually come to your campus for recruitments?
Okay, yeah, fair. So McKinsey is very selective in who they come to, it, and that's expanding the business. And I'm definitely sure I feel like in Delhi University, there's 3 colleges that they come to: LSR, Stephens, and SRCC. But we're in talks and are definitely expanding that, right? And I feel like because it's very important to provide an equal platform to everyone. Other than this, so if a person like does not have this opportunity in college, there are roles that are open for the public that you can apply on LinkedIn. They open on the portals, and you can take referrals from people you know. Just have a conversation with them, tell them your profile, share a CV with them, talk to them a little bit, and if they feel like, get referred there. The path I chose was, of course, going through the MBA route, and understand that it's these companies really come looking. Companies like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, they really come looking for people in MBA colleges, be it ISB, be it Bangalore, Calcutta, all of these. These are all the different ways you can get in. There's another sort of entry, which is lateral hiring. Let's say you work in an industry for a few years, and you now have like you worked in it for like 4 to 5, 6 years. You can also enter McKinsey laterally as an expert then.
So someone from our audience is asking, like, is it a wise decision to quit CA articleship and give MBA a shot, or should I focus first on clearing CA?
It's all about like, this is not a question I can answer. These are 2 things with 2 different sort of career choices, but also a lot of MBA colleges have a lot of CAs in them who've come, and becoming a CA is a degree in itself, right? It's an accredited degree now. It's very valued. So I don't think that you need to compromise in that. MBAs can be done really like, they're very flexible in terms of time. So I feel like if you come a certain way, given a few exams, and that's where your interest lies, do that, explore that, and then maybe do an MBA. 3 to 4 of my close friends were CAs in college.
So since this time of internships and placements, so somebody's asking, what kind of internships work should we look for? How do we determine which internship is good for them?
Okay, there's a few things here. Number one is like the brand of the company itself, right? You want to go for internships that have structured programs every year. This will sort of like, because in these cases, let's say, I think like EY takes a lot of interns and all, Deutsche Bank and here, they have very set tasks and that are like good for you in terms of learning and be like recognized in industry, right? That's number one. Choosing and sort of filtering out what kind of brands you want to work for and what kind of internship programs you want to work for. Second would be interest, right? If you're genuinely very interested in a domain, internships are not just about putting on your CV and getting highlighted and making your jobs, making your chances of a job better. They're also a lot about like exploring a field. So do that. Okay. In terms of getting them, there's the placement cell of your college. You can reach out on LinkedIn, etc. You can reach out to people, and I feel like the people referral bit is something that is very that is most effective, right?
All right, sir. We also have one question about the exit options in consulting. when compared to finance?
Yeah. So I don't believe that finance has that great exit options compared to consulting, simply because like you are specialized in a particular field and the skill sets you develop over a period of time are not too cross cutting. While in consulting, you work in n number of fields, right? Finance being one of them. So the exit options in consulting, I believe, are more uh, diverse and more the more available in consulting, right?
All right, sir. So I just had one question on behalf of some people. That what is actually the life of a consultant all about? Like we know that it's amazing, and then the consulting is one of the top most growing fields also. But what sort of a person or temperament actually suits consulting?
That's a very good question, actually. Yes. So I'm going to tell you that, right? So consulting is something along with all this analytical, and I know that it's very attractive from that point of view, where you get to learn a lot, but also understand what comes with consulting is a lot of like travel and instability, right? I'm not in the city 5 days a week. It's only the weekend where I can come back home, right? You're constantly living out of flights. You start taking flights as buses. You don't get to eat food. A lot of times you don't get time for exercising, right? So a person who can deal with a load of and this is something we develop along as time goes by. You are in a lot of high stress situations quite a bit, right? The hours you work are much more than your friends who will be working till 6, 7 o'clock. But it's rewarding in its own way, right? The first 2, 3 months are going to seem very exciting when you stay on all these 5-star hotels, when you get all these, you eat at all these fancy places, when like you get all these other perks of consulting and like flying all the time. Everything seems really nice, but that starts to fade away in a few initial months, and then it's all about like you start focusing on like becoming a better employee of the company and like just becoming and dealing with multiple things together, right? You learn prioritizing. You learn how to leverage different resources. You choose what to focus on, and you learn how to deal with stress, and that's very important going forward. That's a very important skill that you learn. Right? So a person who can sort of just deal with all this, be comfortable, and like be willing to be very uncomfortable for the first year. It's a very tumultuous phase, right?
Definitely. So,
Chavi, your voice is breaking again. I'm sorry.
can you please take over?
Can't hear you. Nikhil, are you saying something?
I think she's having a network trouble. So, sir, we have a last question for you. That somebody's asking, what, according to you, changed your decision from going from marketing to consulting?
Okay, again, right. So this is a very good question again. In marketing, I was, and this is what happened, right? 2 to 3 instances. While working for a project, I just think of it this way, right? When you're consulting a company, you would be talking to CXOs very often, and you would be talking to them about like strategy of like, let's say, a family of 200 brands, right? Things here move a lot faster than they do in like traditional setups, which is not wrong at all. As a business owner, you have a lot more skin in the game and you have to think a lot more, right? But as a consultant, you get a lot more perspective. Things move a lot faster. For this one instance, right, in one of the companies that I worked for in marketing, I was supposed to interact with the consumers. That process of involving an agency, getting the approvals for costing, took a long time. Like took me about 2 to 3 weeks of my like precious few months I had in marketing. But in McKinsey, it takes me like 30 minutes if I were to get something done right. If I don't know something, if I want to interact with someone, the company trusts me, it's going to give me the resources, it's going to connect me to the person. It trusts me to leverage that wisely.
All right, sir. Thank you for sharing your experience. And that brings us to the end of this session. We extend our deepest gratitude to you, sir, for sharing invaluable insights on the subject of consulting. Your expertise has proven to be immensely beneficial for each one of us, and we are sincerely appreciative of your knowledge, and we have gained a lot as a result. Thank you wholeheartedly for all your contributions. We just have a small memento for you. Please accept this as a token of gratitude from the side of Hindu Consulting Group.
Guys, thanks a lot. Just send this to me. It'll be great. But great interacting with you guys. And I will be in touch, you guys, in the capacity that we had talked about earlier, where we will interact. Even if I'm around in Delhi University, I will drop by and I'll ping you guys. You guys can meet me and we can discuss in person. All right.
That would be great, sir.
Okay, guys. Bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all those who have joined us today. And remember that the adventure doesn't end here. Take the knowledge and inspiration you have gained today and continue exploring the vast landscape of consulting. And we'll see you tomorrow in our next segment of Aged and Placed 2.0. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You have been a lovely audience.